Hey friends, welcome to Your Story Matters podcast. My name is Michaela, and I am so happy you're here. My hope for this show is that we experience the power of storytelling and understand that we are the main characters in our story so that we can live as our truly authentic selves. You're in the right place to hear real stories that will challenge, inspire, and encourage you on your personal growth journey. I hope you enjoy. Today on the show is Kuhn. Kim is a lover of music, art, and books, a travel and Lego enthusiast, and, by her own admission, not always a great cook. She is deeply passionate about teens and their well-being, a passion shaped by her own experiences. Kim's teenage years were marked by severe anxiety, probably influenced by a very strict mom, which followed her into adulthood and motherhood, where she often found herself feeling tense and overwhelmed. Over time, these mental health struggles manifested physically, leading to decades of brain fog, chronic fatigue, IBS, and persistent pain. Her personal journey through both mental and physical health challenges ultimately led her to life coaching. After years of exploring various healing modalities and doing extensive research, Kim began to find answers that allowed her to breathe easier, retain her energy, and truly enjoy life again. As Kim gained clarity around her physical health, she also learned and continues to learn practical tools and strategies to manage mental health challenges. Teaching these skills to tweens, teens, and parents of tweens and teens has become one of her greatest joys. Kim currently lives in Niederhausen, Germany. She is married to Terry Kuhn and is the proud mother of 3 grown children and 7 grandchildren. Here's our conversation.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Your Story Matters podcast. It is so great to be here with you. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend it with me. And I am happy to be spending time today with Kim Kuhn. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me here. Yeah, I'm super excited.
It's a joy. We just start real broad and we just narrow it down here on the show. So the question we always start with is, Kim, what is your story?
My goodness. Okay, so I consider myself just nobody, I guess, extraordinary. I'm one of those people that was not born with a lot of natural talents, and I'll get to that. But basically, I grew up in a multicultural household. My dad is German American. He was born and raised in Brooklyn, but his family are all Germans. So they were speaking German when he was younger. My mom is Korean, and which means that there was a lot about appearances. And so I have a distinct memory when I was in high school going with my mom to her friend's house, and I can understand some Korean. I cannot speak a lot of it, but I can hear the voices in Korean saying, directing this to me, look at how she's standing, look at her nose, look at this and that. Good things, bad things, but it's all about appearances. And even when I was younger, my mom was not happy with the clothing choices I made because it was all about jeans and t-shirts, sweatshirts. And she was very much wanting me to wear dresses and skirts and makeup and all that when I was in high school to look like a girl. I was a tomboy. And in high school, my mom was very, very strict. So as an example, I went out for the 4 years of high school probably 5 times with friends. 2 of them were prom. And with the exception of the last 2 months of my senior year, everything else I was not allowed to go out for. And very old school, strict Asian mom. And that was very, very difficult for me. And so that kind of caused a lot of anxiety in me. And that kind of created a lot of physical challenges as well. So as I got older, I didn't know what it was, but basically I got married, I had kids, but there were times when I was just laying on the couch in a lot of pain and my husband would have to watch the kids. And other days I would be fine. But I had decades of brain fog and chronic fatigue and major anxiety. But in the beginning, I didn't know that it was all that. I didn't know I had anxiety. It just kept thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I focus? Why am I tired? Oh, moms are all supposed to be tired. That's why. It was only many years later I was realizing what was happening, what had happened with me. And unfortunately, my kids were raised by a very uptight, anxious mom. And so I jokingly say to people, I'm still lucky my kids talk to me, and we have, I think, good relationships, maybe not always perfect, but I'm grateful so much for them. And so all this being said, I wanted to figure out my health. And so when COVID started, I decided to change route because doctors have done all these traditional testing on me, have never found anything. So then I went to the homeopathic route. And I went actually to 4 different homeopathic practitioners, and I told them, hey, I just would like a consultation, so I can learn the best methodologies that fits me. And they all were very kind about it and said, sure. And the 4th person had a diagnostic tool. And that's when I started getting answers to my physical problems. And it was amazing. She came up with this huge list of intolerances. The testing was cheaper and much more immediate than any kind of blood testing and much more accurate. And I thought this was fascinating. So the intolerance list that caused me to have a lot of these problems and the stomach pains, and because it was getting worse, where almost every night I was in pain. The list was gluten and dairy, sugar, and you can imagine almost everything has sugar nowadays. Chocolate, nuts, seeds, fruits. So the only thing that left remaining was meats and some vegetables.
Gosh.
So I was elated. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So that first week, I remember feeling, first of all, no pain for like 5 days straight. No pain. I had energy. My mind was clear. I'm like, oh my gosh, it felt like I was waking up from a very long dream. And it was great. But I have learned that until I get so much more worked on in my body, the detox and the bad bacteria, and I found out I had thyroid problems, that wasn't going to last. But at least I had longer periods that were healing for my body. So going back and forth, still getting better. My intolerance list is now much shorter than it was, but I still do have one. And for my mental health, that took a while, because when my husband and I moved to Germany 7 years ago, my kids were out of school. They finished school, and I finished homeschooling my niece. So she graduated, and it was perfect timing. Let's go to Germany. But my dad had dementia, and we can tell from conversation that they kind of needed help. So we moved them in with us. And mentally challenging. Wow. I would felt like I was being triggered every day with my mom. And sometimes she would say things very innocent, but it would just do something to me, like almost viscerally. So I was in my room a lot. But I realized I couldn't just live this way, where my body was in constant fight or flight mode. And I had to go to my room to settle down. So little bit at a time, slowly things started to heal. And after 3 years, my dad's dementia got worse. He ended up going to the hospital, and after some conversation, realized with my parents' insurance and the language at some of the hospitals, they need to come back to the States. Because at that time, the language and stuff was just not in the small hospitals. They didn't speak much English, and my dad forgot most of his German. So we helped them move back to the States, and that was North Carolina. It's very strange of why they went to North Carolina, but they went there, and I had not even a month to find a place for them that was affordable for them. So we did that. Then I came back to Germany, and I continued just working on healing myself. Lots of research, lots of reading, lots of talking to people, and my health became so much better. So at this time, I think before even my parents moved, I wanted to be a health coach. I thought, I'm learning to heal. Let me help others. But I realized I needed to take more classes to be able to be the health coach that I wanted to be. And I wasn't willing to do that. So besides that, when I would talk to friends and they would tell me about their health concerns, and I would say, oh, you want a free session? And I would get, oh, no, thank you. So that was a bit discouraging. So then I went online, and I found this thing called teen coaching and parent coaching. And I thought, oh, maybe this is something I could do, because I love helping people, and felt like that there was a need there. And the more I got to that, the more I felt really that needs to be something I need to get into. And even my husband had said he felt like this is different. Over everything I've tried before, this felt different. So I took some courses, wonderful, amazing courses, to help me learn how to do that. I'm currently with the U.S. military community in Germany, which makes it a little bit trickier. In the military, people are used to more free or less expensive services. And I'm a Christian, so I was praying and asked the Lord, am I supposed to be doing this because it's not working? And the answer came back that do not worry about the money, just serve. So I was like, okay, one of those things. Not saying that, income might not come later. It's just at that moment, just serve. So I've been able to teach free parent workshops, student workshops, loving them and learning along the way. I did not start great. Definitely. I've been asking for comments and suggestions. And I told my last group, I said, don't be nice to me. I said, I cannot improve until you guys tell me what I need to change. And so I've been tweaking it along the way. This has been kind of my practice ground in a way, but I've just learned so much through research, through data, through evidence-based research. And so this is what I present with the parent workshops. And I've been teaching them at international schools, at U.S. military schools, and with the student workshops, that's been a lot of fun because it's all about goal setting, about resilience, mindset, these kinds of things. I was actually one of the teachers that I was presenting this one workshop to about resilience, loved it. She asked me to come back every week so that I can kind of have this curriculum. And I was so excited, and I was like starting to plan this curriculum. But unfortunately, my dad's dementia got worse. So I flew back. I'm going to back up here. Actually, in November was when there was availability in a facility that had assisted living and memory care and independent living. So then I came back and moved my parents from North Carolina to Virginia to Richmond. So I helped them then. And that was the move-in date was December 1st. And then January 23rd, I flew back over. That's where I'm right now. And within probably a week, my dad passed away. And, even though I'm older and we knew it was going to happen, it was still kind of hard. So, but I'm staying strong for my mom because it was extremely challenging for her. And I am grateful I can be here to help her through this because her cognitive skills are also declining. Her physical skills, all of this is really difficult for her. And when they were in Germany with me, it was I call it a disguised blessing because even though it was hard, I learned so much more about my parents and I learned why my mom was the way she is. And it helped me to start being more compassionate to her. And recently I remember reading something that I've been having on my mind. It said that if you want to heal, you must serve. Something to that effect. And it's been really, really helpful. I'm grateful I can be here to help my mom with all the stuff, after someone passes away, to make sure that she's received things like the insurance money and the beneficiary payments and just everything, all the logistics. And so I will be going back home in a few days. And my husband and I have made the decision to move back to the States and have my mom move in with us to help her. So I feel like my healing journey has come a long way. But there you go. That's my story.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to go back to the beginning part. And what was it like growing up in a multicultural household? And did you kind of feel at home in any one culture, or was it kind of just a confusing time?
That's a great question. It was really interesting. Loved, like when I look back on it, I wasn't very conscious about certain things when I was a lot younger, but I was very proud of being half Korean. There are some interesting aspects of it though, because one day my mom remembers this. So she made gimbap. And if people don't know the term gimbap, it's what people call sushi, but without the raw fish. And this is in Germany when I was younger, because I lived there several times growing up since my dad was in the army. So she would just use what we had. So it was like strips of hot dogs, some scrambled eggs, these kinds of things. So she made the gimbap and I took it to school one day. And I love this stuff. And the kids made fun of me. Oh, that's disgusting. How can you eat seaweed? That's horrible. To now where people go, oh yeah, I love that stuff. It's so different. And so that part, was kind of tricky, but I loved having this other part of me. The German American thing was fun because we were living in Germany for a couple times in my life, and so that was fun just because I was familiar with some of the culture. We would celebrate on a very minor scale sometimes with other families who are also part Korean, Solal, which is the Lunar New Year, which Americans will call Chinese New Year. But I was familiar with Chuseok, which is kind of like a Korean Thanksgiving. So, and I had this one interesting experience when I was younger in elementary school where I had paperwork from school. And I said, Dad, can you fill this out? He says, you fill out what you can, I'll do the rest. And there was a question about identity for ethnic groups. Now, today you can check off more than one. Back then you could only check off one. But I didn't think about that. I checked off Asian, Caucasian. And I gave it to my dad. And he said, sorry, hon, you can only pick one. And I was confused. How can you only pick one? And then there I saw it says mixed. So, oh, I'm mixed. I'll check on that one. And he said, sorry, that means if you're half black or half white. So what am I supposed to do? That was a very I guess, very interesting time for me to really think about my background. And it's something that I use in some of my workshops to talk about identity. Who are we really? So yeah, that was an interesting time. But I enjoyed being part of all of those different cultures.
There's something rich about that experience that unfortunately people always go to the negative about first because you don't quite know what foot to put in what camp. And my question to that is, why do we have to choose? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, just occupy the space, right?
Right.
No, that's beautiful, and I can only imagine German and Korean cultures are very different in terms of food, first of all,
Yes.
language, second of all, and customs and all that. But I don't know, I view that now as just a very rich experience that if you only have, not to say that there's not anything wrong with having one distinct culture and ethnicity, but there's a real joy about having a blendedness to it that those who do not never get to experience that in the way that you have. So I just think that's a very, very cool thing. Not without its hardships, but cool to reflect on and have that part of you that you pass down to kids and grandkids and all of that.
Yeah.
When it came to anxiety, not quite knowing what it was in high school and your younger years, what were the sensations in your body? Kind of what was showing up? Where was the pain located? And just like walk me through a typical day.
One of the key factors for me, and I think for a lot of people, is procrastination, which just adds to this. So, in the beginning of the school year, I would tell myself, I'm going to do my homework, I'm going to study and all that. But I would get anxious for the homework because, especially with math, it was so difficult for me. I just could not get my head around numbers, math or sciences. And so it'd be so challenging. And I'd say, I'll do it later, I'll figure it out later. And then I wouldn't do it. And then I would get bad marks on the homework or I didn't turn it in. And it was just that cycle. And so that anxiety kind of part of it was expressed in that procrastination. And then also with the fact that I couldn't express my opinions at home. I couldn't say hardly, that just added to all that. And I had read how kids will often gain confidence by being able to choose clothing, and being told that, those are okay. And so all of that kind of led to that. So at the end of the high school year, a high school year, yeah, my anxiety was just through the roof, big time. And the thing about math is now I understand a lot of it was probably just a mental block because I used to think myself, I'm not a math person, I'm horrible at math. But as I've gotten older and done a lot more research, I realized it was just my own personal mental block. Because when I look back on my math, I did horribly, didn't understand it. In computer science class, I remember trying to get help during lunchtime from the teacher or their peer tutors or maybe after school. The only reason I passed the class, I think, is because the teacher knew I was trying. I just didn't get it. But when I was in college, I took an astronomy class. This is actually more of like a night class thing. And out of everyone that started the class, about 25, only 5 people finished it. And you had to do math. You had to figure out the distance of stars and so forth. And I got an A. I thought there's a difference there. I still struggle with numbers, but I think again, it's more a personal mental block than just numbers.
Yeah. Calculus in high school was a no-go for me. And I did musical theater. So I'm all about the whimsy and the magical and the fra la la in difference to math, which I also struggle. So I am with you. I'm with you there all of the way. What was it like to be Kim in her early 20s, kind of out of high school, college, not sure when you got married, but kind of what was it like coming into a little bit more of your own independence outside of the family home? And did you have any reaction to, oh, I get to choose clothing or I get to do this or I get to do that and have a little bit more freedom, if you will? Whereas before it didn't seem as that.
Yeah. Well, for me, so when I went to college, first of all, my parents were stationed in Heidelberg, Germany, and I went to the University of Maryland in Munich, Germany, Munich campus, which doesn't exist anymore. It's a junior college. There was only like 500 kids at a time. It was created for those whose parents were in Europe, right? And so that we could still stay on the same continent. It was great in a lot of ways because we're in Munich, but it was also not so great because the drinking age it was 16 here in Germany. And so I chose to use my freedom in very not so good ways. And I partied and I had too much fun, but I did not study. I just avoided responsibility basically. And I just wanted to have fun. So having this newfound freedom was just like from extreme, from having not hardly any and then going from too much. I did not make wise choices, but I had fun in a lot of ways. And then it was only 2 years, but then I got married at age 20 and I had my first kid at 21. I was not mature, and it was very, very difficult because that whole anxiety was coming back up again. And both my husband and we both say we were not mature when we were younger. And it was very, very difficult. And so I know through the research, my kids were, they felt all this anxiousness. They felt all the crying, the screaming, all of this kind of stuff, so it's not good for them. So, and yeah, and then I had, my second kid 2 years later, and 6 years later, I had my third kid. So I love my children. I love my grandchildren, but it was hard. It was very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What aspects of your parents did you kind of like take with you as you became a mom? And kind of what were the things, at least now looking back, that you're like, I wanted to do it my way, whether you did it or didn't?
Yeah. That's hard because I get a lot of mom guilt.
Yeah.
I knew, so okay, I don't know if this is going to answer it quite or not, but with my mom's part of the healing process for me was, okay, figuring out what were the positive things, right? And my mom she taught me an appreciation for the arts, which was something I didn't realize how big it was for me till I got a bit older. But I wanted to share that with my kids, that music, literature, the arts, they can bring a sense of beauty in the world. But it was difficult because, when I'm young and then I have all this anxiousness, I'm so tunnel vision of what's happening now, and that's it. So I wanted to bring more of that, and I tried. I tried the best I could. I also wanted to make sure that my kids had fun with friends, and to say, okay, yes, go. Um, Here are some rules, but yes, go and have some fun. My dad was one who would tell me his opinion once or twice, and then let me make the decision and let me learn from my mistakes. And I really wanted to implement that, but it didn't come as much as I wanted it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
But
is tough to
yeah,
balance. I am not a parent, but just growing older, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but that appreciation and compassion for parents as you get older and you kind of understand whether it is culturally, whether it is emotionally, or just kind of like how they're wired, and what external circumstances were kind of fueling the environment that you were raised in. You're like, oh, you kind of get it in a way that as a kid you're like, I don't have capacity or the bandwidth to understand this.
right.
Because you're kind of, up until a certain age, you're just wanting to live that free life. And as soon as you hit a certain age, like, it's bills for the rest of your existence. Like, that's terrible, right?
Right.
But we still always want that fun and that adventure. But yeah, looking back, it's like they did the best they could with what they knew how to do.
Yeah.
And so there's like an honoring to that. And then I think they always say like your adult years are like making up for childhood or something, which like just completely saddens me to no end.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I do my parent workshops I tell everyone, I said, I don't do this because I was such a great parent. It's like kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
So that's why I do these workshops, because I want to give people these tools, these parents, especially of teens and tweens, these tools of how to navigate all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important.
Very much so. As your body is ranked with anxiety and trying to move forward with all these health issues, what was kind of the catalyst for really need something to change?
I think I just got to the point of I was tired. Number one, like with my physical anxieties, I just got tired of being in pain. Just almost every night my stomach would hurt, or the brain fog, or the chronic fatigue. I'm like, I just got tired. People say, when you're sick of and tired of being sick and tired, that's what it was. I was rarely sick, like with a cold or something like that. That's not what my body goes through most of the time, at least. But just tired of the pain, just tired of not being able to focus, and my brain's just so in that fog. And then starting to like learn what's been happening with my body and so forth, and all of that, and just finally having some hope. And my husband was very supportive over the years in saying that, and telling me, he's like, why don't you go see another doctor, that kind of thing. But after a while, I just stopped. I said, they're going to tell me the same things. So when I switched gears, yeah, that was just very, very helpful. But I think that's part of it. And then mentally, I'm just so tired of feeling this way. It was like feeling, you had to ask earlier, I don't think I had answered that, but I just feel it like in my chest area. the tightness of my body. And I was, I think, listening to something and they're talking about how your body tenses up. And I realized my shoulders were always so tense. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not recognize that. And, when something on the videos starts to talk about breathing exercises and I'm doing those, and I'm like, wow, I had, again, no idea I was that tense. So it's just little bit by little bit wanting to make those changes and then getting to a point where I want to teach other people how to make these changes, because if parents aren't emotionally regulated, how are they going to help their kids be emotionally regulated? They can't, right? It escalates. So the teen starts yelling, the parents are going to start yelling, blah, 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 going on up. You have to learn tools. You can't just wing it. You can't just go, oh, I can figure it out. That's what I thought. But you can't just figure it out. You need help.
Yeah. What is the beauty of learning about your body? I think so much of the time we occupy the humanness, the shell, if you will, of ourselves. But I absolutely love talking to people who have been on any kind of health journey, whether it's mental or physical or even emotional, because it all is connected. And there's such a beauty of watching, like you would do it a certain way and it wasn't working. And then you're like, oh, I actually get to learn and be present and aware and find the beauty in the everyday of living in this body. So, what was that like for you to find slow healing? And I like how you have said that earlier of like, there is no fast overnight success with anything, right? You have to do the work. And
Right.
that's a lot of it where people are like, I just want to like take a pill and boom. And oh boy, do I wish that for every other aspect of life, but that just does not happen, Kim, does it? So yeah, walk me through the beauty of learning about your body.
I think, again, part of the healing process for me was learning about gratitude, feeling a little bit just better each time, and having even one day, first of all, of having clarity in the mind. So that I'm grateful for. And one of the things, this is actually one of the things that I teach in my student workshops, and I try to make them interactive and fun and so forth. But I say, you know what, when I was in some of that pain and I go, you know what can I be grateful for? I have eyes. And I know some people are blind, but I have eyes I can see. And I love color. I love art. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And you know what? I have legs. I can walk. I can dance. I'm not a great dancer, but I have that ability to be able to dance and walk. I'm a huge walker. I have hands. I can hold things. I have ears. I can hear music. It's incredible. So it's getting out of the negative focus. What can I focus on? Actually, Tony Robbins, he says that what are we focusing on? Do we focus on what we have, what we're missing? And I think that is so true. That is so true. Two people can have the same upbringing and so forth, environments, but they're going to have different trajectories and where they're going to go in life, because it's where our focus is at. Do we have the gratitude of what that's going well? Because um, it's so easy to point out the negative. And I do that sometimes. I think we all do, but just doing better today than what we did yesterday, if we can. If not, okay, we've got the next day. We reset every day. So yeah, that slow healing process is just one day at a time. How am I today? Am I going to do that emotionally eating, which means eating things that are not good for me? And then I'm going to suffer the consequences, fine. Or am I going to choose today to eat well and be grateful for the other day when I felt so amazing, and I know I'm going to have another day like that. It's a little bit, at a time.
Yeah, that's so true. And so when you're leading these workshops for preteens and teens, how is that kind of healing you in a different way, if not always physical, kind of a little bit more head and heart related? But how have you just kind of seen that change in you over the years?
Well, I've only been doing the workshops for a few years, but for me, first of all, it's a reminder for me, right? When I do them, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to remember this thing I'm teaching right now. But the other thing is to realize that my experiences can help others, and when I do just a workshop, 1 hour workshop or 1.5 hour, I don't know what's going to happen to these kids' lives in the future. But at that moment, I can see their eyes on me when I'm telling them a story or having fun with an activity for them to see like, oh yeah, okay, I get it now. That's incredible. And so in those moments, I know that I'm giving them a glimpse of what they can have in the future. My program, my company is called Step Into Incredible. And I tell them in the beginning of every workshop, it's because every one of you can have an incredible life. It doesn't matter what your family background is, what's happening at home, if you're getting good grades or not, if you're good at sports or not, you can have an incredible life. And I know that when they finish these workshops, then I can remember most of the stuff I taught them. but I'm hoping it's a start, and they can keep adding, if they choose to keep adding different things in their lives to continue this success of having that incredible life, whatever it may look like. And so for me, it's just the joy of being able to be part of that. That's how I
That's
feel.
so good. Yeah, that's so good. Little seeds that are planting. You don't know if you'll actually get to see the garden fully, but yeah, don't overlook the planting of the seeds because you don't have a garden without planting seeds, right? What has been the relationship like with your mom now? We've talked a little bit via email about your parents and my grandparents that have suffered with a cognitive disintegration, dementia, and kind of all of those things, which is just the roughest time.
Right.
So, what has the relationship been like for you?
I think it's one of compassion. You know, I could easily just go, oh, you're on your own and because of all this, but I'm like, why do that? There's some things I don't even bring up because what does it do? It doesn't make me feel better. Bitterness is not going to make me feel any better. It's understanding her experiences growing up. And we joke about it sometimes because she tells me, she's like, I was very spoiled. I said, yes, you were, Mom. Those times that you could have been taught certain things, but nope, that wasn't happening. She went through the Korean War, but she also lived very wealthily. It was rare in those times, but they had two live-in servants. It's a very different world that I'm used to. But just seeing that, she needs help. And it's not like people have said to me, oh, yeah, so you have to go back and you have to do this. I don't have to do anything. I choose to. And I think that's one of the differences that's part of my healing process is it's just a choice that I'm making. And I'm grateful for a husband who's part of all this, right? Says, okay, yeah, let's do this. It's not going to be like super duper easy kind of a thing, right? But I look at some of the things that she's taught me, and it's again, it's the appreciation of the arts. She took me to an opera at I was age 8, which some people would say, oh, yes, they're so young. My first opera, I fell asleep. And when after that, I loved it. She's given me the appreciation for music. So when we traveled to different countries when we were living in Europe for 5 years, she would buy a record album from that country. And after the vacation, we came home, she would play it. So we were listening to music on the record in Russian, Polish, Italian, whatever. So it just, to me, those parts add to life, and add to the enjoyment of life. Yeah. And I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. As we are wrapping up here, which time has just flown, I'll tell you. What's next for you? What's your next chapter? How is Kim's story continuing to unfold with healing and all of the things?
So my hope, my plan right now is, so we're going to be moving back in a few months. I have my mom with us, but I would love to get this training in schools. It'll be, different environment when I'm in the States, of course. Get these workshops into as many schools as I can. I would love to develop a curriculum of success habits into the schools. I would love to continue my coaching. I don't really hardly do any coaching right now. It's just these workshops. Plus, we're getting ready to move and all that. But I would love to be able to do coaching for parents, coaching for teens. I just finished coaching up a teen, and it's funny because she was saying how um, it's not like therapy. I said, no, but this is what people have in mind. And so when the parents ask the kids, what do you think about seeing a coach? Immediately they're going to say no. So I tell parents, I said, don't ask them that question. Don't, just no, because they're going to think it's like therapy. They're going to say no. I said, talk to me about how we're going to ask your child about this process and have them just meet with me. I would do virtual sessions, just meet with me and then we can go from there. But yeah, so that's what I'm hoping. I just want to continue learning how to help the teens because it's a very different world than 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's so much more complex and it's much more difficult, I think, to navigate in the digital world of these teens. So that's what I'm hoping to do.
I love it. I wish I had you 15 years ago.
I wish I had me too.
And isn't that the thing that we do? I think life's purpose is what is the thing that we maybe lacked? And then that's the thing that we end up giving back, to the world to make sure that no one else has to live without, or they do have the knowledge, they have the tools where maybe we didn't. that's just very special. So I applaud you for all the work that you're doing. It would be incredible for all schools in the state to kind of do this, because that's what we need, right? We just need to have family, friends, strangers, coaches, everyone in between to be like, you can do this because you can. And I don't think we get that encouragement enough scholastically or even just, day to day, because it's so easy to focus on the negative, like you said, especially with the world. The world is so different from how I grew up. I mean, good gracious.
Yes, I totally agree.
And but we can all do it. So what a great message to deliver. I love it. Kim, thank you so much for your time today. It was a joy getting to talk with you and getting to know you. And I hope the move back to Germany, excuse me. I hope the move back to the States, you've just moved so much,
Yeah.
is probably the easiest one that you've ever had. I hope that, because
Thank you.
there's so much. I get the ins and outs of all of that. So thank you for your time today. And it was fun having you here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was great being here. So thank you.
Thanks for listening. I invite you to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen, give it a rating and review while you're at it. It really goes a long way. And check out the show notes for all the ways to stay connected with me and our guests. Until the next episode.